besties. You've found your community bestie to share thoughts and opinions, recap the shows we love.
Having too much fun.
Bravo should be fun.
And have piping hot gossip sessions about the celebrities and Bravo lebs we love, hate, and love to hate.
He went on a podcast claiming he had a threesome with 2 women from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Immediately, I was like, I wonder if it's Brandy and Carlton.
I'm Caitlin Marshall, your pop culture and Bravo bestie.
Allegedly allegations.
And if you enjoy fun conversation between friends, listening to your bestie rant about shows we can't get enough of, plus enjoy a little bit of, well, ridiculousness.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. There's a spider that is coming down. Hold on.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
It's like the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God. Has anybody seen my ring?
Oh my God.
I don't want to ruin the party or anything.
Have you seen my ring? Oh my God. Can you look on the floor for my ring? God, someone's gonna kill me.
Don't mess with me because I will come.
What? Oh.
Feel free to leave that in for whatever entertainment purposes.
You're in the right place. So thanks for joining me on Besties by Bravo.
Hi, besties. Thank you for joining me today. It's March 28th, and it is Friday, my friends. I hope you've had a good week. It's been a week of womp, womp, womp on Bravo, if you ask me. This is not going to be a super long recap because, one, reunions are notoriously difficult to recap. Let's just be real, because it's rehashing the same things over and over. And it's good when we get new information, right? But we didn't get a ton of new info. Mostly, we did get a little bit of new information from Craig and some more context when it comes to Venita and JT. Now, I am going to have to break a lot of your hearts, besties. Craig did confirm on Watch What Happens Live last night when he was on with Shep and Austin, which apparently was also the first time all 3 of them have been on together, that he is seeing someone. Now, the Reddit sleuths, I don't even know how they could figure this out, but they seem to have possibly narrowed it down to one person. It's not confirmed, so I'm not going to say this person's name, but it's someone we haven't seen. If that's the case, good for him. You know, I hope that both he is happy and feeling seen and checked in on while Paige is enjoying living her best single life. Wish them both the best. It's possible to do that. Okay, my friends, let's get on into the reunion, shall we? We really just are opening up with everyone talking about getting ready for the reunion, the girlies in glam, the guys putting on their tuxes and the finery. We do get to the point where everyone's sitting and Madison comes in, debuting her cute little bump. I'm so happy for her, and so is everyone else. Y'all, she looks the way I did with my first child, first and so far only, at 4 months. You know how they say the second one is when you really show, but now I started showing so much with the first that I even had a boss tell me when I was only 4 months that it looked like I must be having a secret twin in there. So big, there must be 2. Women. Anywho, she does end up saying that she's thinking of naming her daughter something along the line of an honoring of her father who did just pass not too terribly long ago. His name was Teddy. And y'all, don't even start with the not another Teddy. It's a cute name, I think. Truly, I do think it is. She did say that she's considering saving that name for the next one she's already ready to have because she's convinced she's going to have a boy now. Girl, let's get through the newborn and postpartum phase first. Slow your roll. I'm happy for her, though. When Andy greets JT and says that last he knew, JT had quit the show, JT at least admits that his inner bitch came out in that moment, and he has since calmed down. So is JT not quitting the show? It seems like he probably should, considering there's not a single person to even tie him to the group at this point that will speak to him or do much with him, considering Leva's the only one being remotely kind to him, and Leva has left. And I think for Leva, that's the best choice. I love her. She's got a lot going on, and this way she gets to be with her son, and that's time you're never going to get back. So I completely and totally honor that, and I don't want to hear any Leva hate, nothing like that. Okay. Anyway, Andy ends up asking when the last time was that JT and Venita saw each other, and my girl is coming in, letting it be known that she has the memory, the receipts, the proof, F and everything, timeline screenshots, by giving the exact date of October 28th. And then JT makes the mistake of saying it's good to see her because all she says back is it? And honey, looking as amazing as Venita does, ooh, it must feel so good for her. Not fun, but good. You know what I mean? Now Craig is going to have to answer more questions and just things about the breakup with Paige for the millionth time. And to be honest, I'm just really only going to include the things we didn't know already. So his explanation for whether he missed any red flags with Paige is interrupted by a vase falling over. The timing, honey. But that he went off of what their relationship was like behind closed doors. The question now is about Craig not telling Austin about the breakup when it happened, because they were together when he got the phone call from Paige, and it was just before they went on stage for the live show they were doing for their podcast Pillows and Beer. But Austin claims he kind of had a feeling and knew basically what had happened before Craig even told him, and eventually prodded it out of Craig by asking him, look, when are you and Paige going to London? What's happening? Now, this is when Andy's going to point out that Craig went on Watch What Happens Live on December 12th, and that Paige broke up with him 2 days after Thanksgiving. So Andy clearly is feeling lied to by Craig. Now, I mean, obviously he's feeling lied to. That's because he was, not technically, he was. But I'll say here, I'm not here to be just defending Craig on anything or just defending Paige on anything. But I also will say I do understand some of Craig's explanation on this, that he was both in denial and that he didn't think Paige would actually break up with him over the phone just before he walks on stage after 3 years, 2 days after they spent, according to him, a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday together. I mean, listen, Paige's timing was the opposite of impeccable, if that's exactly how that went down. So I can absolutely sympathize with where Craig was coming from, especially after watching him on Watch What Happens Live in that flashback where, not in that flashback, but after watching him on this recent Watch What Happens Live that was last night, with him saying, look, he and Paige had still been in communication at the time he was on Watch What Happens Live in December, and that he went over to her apartment after and everything. It's like, I get it. He probably thought maybe we're getting back together, and I don't want to be crazy and make announcements of breaking up, then making up, then breaking up, because that's kind of embarrassing at a certain point if you're a public figure to this extent. At least in my opinion, it would seem a little, But in this Watch What Happens Live, how many times am I going to say, Watch What Happens Live? Watch what happens. Anyway, in this particular episode that we flashed back to, Craig did allude to rings, engagements. So I don't know that those were the wisest choice when it came to words, but Craig, again, like I previously just said, Craig says that he went to Paige's apartment after this Watch What Happens appearance, and claims Paige not only said she may be making the biggest mistake of her life, but also that when he asked her what she wanted him to do with the ring that he supposedly got her, she said to keep it, that maybe we'll get married at BravoCon one day. Now, also on Watch What Happens last night, Craig says that morning he had gone and returned the ring to the person he got it from. I'm not entirely sure how that works. So now the getting married at BravoCon one day thing, everyone took this claim quite a bit differently than I did, probably because when I was at BravoCon, I went to the Watch What Happens, that was the Charming House Rules show, and it was brought up that Craig and Paige's parents were meeting each other for the first time that weekend. And the joke was made that they may get married that weekend because, it's Vegas, right? So if this is what Paige said, I believe that she was giving a callback to that moment and that they, will be seeing each other again at some point. It's not like the way a lot of people break up, where you break up, you never have to see that person again, even, unless it's some twist of fate that's not fair and you have to run into them. But I don't believe that Paige was being dead serious when she said that, if she did. Craig says that it was like 2 days later from the Watch What Happens live appearance in December that Paige announced the breakup on her podcast and told Craig, and that's the moment he realized this whole thing was real. Now, Craig admits he doesn't trust Austin enough to have told him about the breakup because he believes that if he had told Austin at that point, the whole world would know. Everyone really just wanted to support Craig through this, and he's never felt more support and backing in his life by the public as well. Now, one of Craig's points of pain is Paige saying that the breakup was mutual, but I want to point out again, and I can't remember if it was on social media that I did or here, so bear that in mind. But Paige saying that it was mutual, I personally believe it was an attempt on her end to help him save face somehow, and maybe that it was like, at least in her mind, it would do that, but the New Year's Eve CNN moment with John Hamm ends up being brought up and kind of touched on about how Craig was hurt that Paige was happy and excited. It was brought up by John Hamm on CNN's New Year's Eve with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen. I mean, I do understand Craig's position on this because if my ex were like, oh my God, I love watching your show. I am so thrilled that you are talking about my breakup. I'd be like, okay, cool. Thanks so much. Craig ends up saying that he feels that Paige isn't the same person he dated after all of this time because of what she's been saying about him publicly, that he perceives as her essentially pandering to the internet when she's being negative about him. And also arguing with people in the comments. But Craig, she is allowed to stand up for herself. I mean, I personally have had to argue with so many people in my comments over this breakup that I have zero involvement with, just because I said I was on both of their teams, defending some of what Paige did, said, felt, and also defending some of what Craig has said and done and felt. I mean, God forbid I not be immediately on the woman hating train. I do have to say, y'all, it's possible to sympathize, empathize, and feel that Craig deserved more in this breakup without choosing to hate on Paige. Okay? Just saying. Andy then asks Craig if Paige broke up with him for another guy. And we see that headline that was about this Joe D'Amelio guy. And they so far have mercifully left out this Joe person's ex-fiance's accusations against Paige. So at least there's that. Craig says he asked Paige, please just tell me if there was someone else. If there is someone else that you broke up with me for, just put me out of my misery, which he says that Paige completely denied. She said, there's nobody. Nada, zero zip. As Craig then says that, Paige followed that up with some quote unquote crazy stuff, which of course everyone's like, oh my God, what did she say? Tell me, what's the tea? What was crazy that Paige said? Supposedly, Paige had asked Craig why he didn't fight for her. And that's when he expressed that he was trying to, but not that he was going to be begging someone to be with him who doesn't want to be with him. And he claims that Paige in turn said to him, see, this is why we made the right decision, which again, that's that same point of pain for Craig that he's already pointed out, that this was not a mutual breakup because he says he would have never left her. It is sad, y'all. I mean, I have to be fair. If Paige called him after 3 years, broke up with him right before he walked on stage, that is pretty diabolical, we have to admit. Now, she didn't have to do it in person if she was too afraid to. I mean, sometimes people can't handle that, right? But to do it right before he walks on stage, oh my effing God. That's brutal, okay? And I think she owed him more than a phone call after that amount of time. I, at the very least, it's also has to be considered that they don't live in the same city, even the same state. So bare minimum a FaceTime. you know, he was planning to move to New York for her, and he, supposedly bought her a ring. That's hard. Of course, personally, I've broken up with someone many, many years ago who claimed they bought me a ring or put a down payment. I still don't know about that. But that being said, I think at the end of the day, it just wasn't going to work. They wanted two different things and they needed two different things. And the way Craig said last night about how he's dating someone, he's put it that the universe has a funny way of working things out. I'm curious about that. I'm still curious if the person people are saying they think it is the actual person. A lot of people thought it was Naomi, but Craig also said on Watch What Happens last night, once there's a breakup, that chapter is closed for him and the door is shut. So we don't think it's not Naomi. Now we move on to the FaceTime call that occurred between Madison, Brett, and JT. Brett and Madison were talking about the episode, and Brett asked her what happened that night when they were in Jamaica because she didn't call him and she was drunk. So she concluded that because she and JT were such good friends, they should just call JT and let him tell him what happened. JT now is saying that if they were going to be sticking with the truth, I've got to defend myself. I thought we were friends. So when I get a call like this from one of my friends and it's serious questions, it makes me uncomfortable. Call me old fashioned. It's old fashioned to find questions being asked uncomfortable. Okay. Madison says there was no anger in the questions being asked and that JT should have just come to her and talked with her if he had felt uncomfortable. I mean, yeah, why didn't JT just say, Madison, I felt a little weird when you and Brett FaceTimed me only because I kind of felt like maybe you guys were mad at me. What is everything okay? Could have been a very, very simple conversation. Madison says there was, again, no anger there. JT is claiming that the questions Madison and Brett were asking on the FaceTime were pretty intimate questions. Okay. But my God, JT, you really don't know how to ever do yourself any favors. Because when Andy asks him what the tone of this conversation with Brett and Madison was, JT's answer is, I think it's probably not great form to dive into the nitty gritty out of respect for Madison, whose relationship I genuinely care about. Sir, this was some of the fakest shit I've witnessed with my own two eyes, and I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. So the amount of phony baloney I saw on a 4-minute walk to Starbucks would be enough to even make Teresa Giudice's Frada and Fonel blush. So come on now. Come on. Venita, Miss Sharp as a tack Aspen, sees straight through it and tells JT, come on, answer the question. You didn't come here to look cute. Just answer the question. Good girl. But JT claims he doesn't have to answer any questions, which Rod mutters that, no, little mister, you do. And Andy says as much, that he kind of actually does because it became such a big point of contention throughout the season. The questions were apparently just simple things like, were people at the beach? Who was at the beach? Who was in what room with who? No actual questions of the like in terms of who was hooking up with who. Did you hook up with someone? Did she? Like, give me a break, JT. Really, JT is like trying to act as though he is such a delicate Southern flower. The way the questions, I should say, offended him. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You want to know why? I told y'all I read all the reviews, good and bad. And I found a lovely review someone had left, and they said, oh, I appreciate this podcast, easy to listen to. Thank you so much. She's not affected by saying like all the time. And so now I'm going, oh my gosh, am I saying like? It was a good thing, and they were saying I wasn't. And it then brought me to something else I do when I talk. And it's because my pageant training, whenever I was close to saying something like, my coach, hi, Miss Sharon, miss you, would tell me to kind of just close my mouth a little bit and let myself think. And so I don't know if anyone notices this. Sometimes my sentences in conversation can sound clipped. Like I'll say a few words and it stops for a second, and then it's not quite as seamless as it should be, like a run-on sentence. I've been trying to work on that. And it's because I'm stopping myself from ing or saying like too much. So instead I tend to draw out and, or I'll say now. So anyway, y'all don't care. Moving on. Anyway, yeah, JT's just trying to be such a delicate little Southern flower. The way those questions offended him. And Madison makes the perfect point next when she says,
Okay, let's be very clear. If my husband was jealous the way you made him out to look, I wouldn't be effing filming with my ex. I wouldn't be on cast trips without him present ever. No crazy jealous husband would allow that.
facts. Boom goes the mic. JT now denies calling Brett jealous. And Jarrett Thomas, I swear, you don't have to say the actual words for the implication to be there. Like, yes, you wanted to talk with the guys at the driving range about it because you didn't know how to handle the way you felt uncomfortable at your big old age. How dare you feel uncomfortable ever and not know how to handle it? But okay, that's fine. Afterward, but what you were saying 1000% was an implication that Brett was jealous or insecure in his marriage with Madison. There is no other way to take what you were telling those boys at that driving range. Gosh, it's almost like you're gaslighting at this point, except you are. JT makes a point that the way Craig relayed the information to Madison and the others was butchered. Yes, clearly from what we saw, it was. When Madison asks him to step back and look at how she received this information as someone who considered him a friend. Then Venita is asked about the conversation she must have had with JT off camera and how she believes this phone call went down between Madison, Brett, and JT, considering her close friendship with Madison. She tells Andy she can't even look in the direction of JT. So Andy's like, all right, go ahead. Just direct your gaze right over here. You're good. Venita admits that JT can oversell a story at times and that she believes Madison's point of view and the intentions behind the phone call. Leva does then jump in saying she understands why Madison is upset and why JT is upset because there's a reason that she doesn't go on the group trips herself, as it can just get complicated sometimes. And I don't know. I was a little confused why Madison said, "Thank you for saying that." I was a little confused. There were a few moments. I don't know what's been happening with the editing on things lately. If I personally need to address some, I don't know, lingering stupidity in my brain, or if there's been some editing choppiness, especially on this show, that's causing confusion. Because y'all, do you not remember in one of the trailers, Taylor is at that end party, at the finale party, yelling, it looked like at Austin, saying, "I will F you up." We never saw that. What happened? Do you see what I'm talking about? Do y'all recall all of this? Where is the Southern accent coming in so strong for? Why? Where from? Well, I know we're from Oklahoma, but still, that being said, I'm confused a lot throughout this. I have to be honest. As Leva is trying to say that it did seem as though Craig went home and said that Brett, JT, and Madison were oh my gosh. Those of you watching on YouTube, bear with me. I don't know what my problem is today. Maybe it's that it's Friday. I'm being inundated with information. It's been, when I say a week of pure insanity. Okay, we're getting back to it. This will be edited out of audio. So for those of you who do watch on YouTube, you're getting a special little blooper. Getting it together. I feel like I have to say this at least once a week when I'm recording. And those of you who know me, besties, you know that that's how it's going to go. Anywho, Leva is trying to say that it did seem as though Craig went home and said that Brett thought JT and Madison were having an affair, when what JT was shown saying was that he just felt uncomfortable and was talking with Craig and Austin about how to handle it because he was afraid Madison and Brett were mad at him. Craig tells Leva to go back and watch what was said, as she's telling him look, you know your words. And Craig is interrupting her as she is interrupting him. And it's just kind of getting messy in the dialogue here, which is, I don't know, it's a pretty accurate description of how this entire subject was handled this season, if I'm honest. Leva and Craig start getting into it. And to be honest, there's more going on here. There has to be. Okay. There has to be more going on here than just what's being said in front of us, because this seemed like a timeline jump, in my opinion, almost the way it went this direction so quickly for Leva and Craig. And, you know, it's, yeah. She's telling him that she's just trying to ask a question as he's yelling, well, how long does it effing take you to ask a question? There must have been some things edited out, because it was just like, what just happened? And this is where, again, my frustration, I don't know. Either we don't have enough information as to what's going on with some of these people behind cameras, or the editors are just trying to get in whatever they can, and it's getting choppy. I've said this a million times now. But yeah, Lev was like, dude, are you just going to sit there and be rude now? Or like, what are we doing? And now we're going to get, remember, I believe it was the girls at Bravo Breaking News who said this. So I can't take credit for the Lisa Rinna Craig, because he then tells Leva, you've said more today than you've said all season. Okay, see, I don't know if I love that type of talk, though, because it goes along with the Monica Garcia benchwarming bitch comment to Angie K on Salt Lake City, which Angie K has very much turned that around this last season. She was the MVP center snowflake, but it does feel like they're reading a lot of the comments, which how can you not? I would have to either never be on social media again, or I don't know. There would have to be some serious boundaries for me. But Leva's not going to take the bait. She's like, all right, cut it out, Craig. Because she probably hears enough of that online. It's like the never ending thing, but whatever. JT is trying to get Craig to be a man and just admit that he lied. But Craig is doubling down, claiming that JT said what he told everyone JT said, but it was times 10. So again, was more said that didn't make the edit, or was this off camera? Or is this Craig storytelling? So I don't understand. And I don't like it when I have to watch something multiple times, taking very analytical notes, going, I don't get it. It shouldn't be this complicated. And so I don't know. I don't want to be critical of editors, because their job is probably so incredibly hard enough, but I'm confused. And I know that usually, Chris, remember, there could be some lingering stupidity on my end. I normally go, okay, well, if I'm confused by this, then maybe the besties are confused, and I try and find every which way I can to clarify things. And if I'm like, I don't know, then I feel like I'm failing y'all. I'm a failure in more ways than one. Anywho, I'm not speaking that into existence. Craig makes the point that JT keeps calling him a liar and that he isn't one. So Leva's like, all right, I'm going to smooth this over by saying that, Craig, you did lie, but I'm going to say it in a gentle way. She tells Craig what was relayed was not accurate, and then it became so much bigger. Andy brings up Madison saying on Instagram that she would apologize to JT at the reunion about that confrontation she had with him, where she asked him if he really thought that she would cheat on her husband with you. I love Madison's accent. I just do. It's so cute. Andy gives her the floor, which she's like, well, maybe a little too soon, considering they were just going back and forth, having that whole thing. She tells JT that she appreciated it when he told Venita that the friendship he was most concerned about fixing when he got to the Bahamas was the friendship with Madison, and that she didn't like being in a place of not liking him or anyone as much as that might surprise all of you. But it's about how she felt that he was coming after her family, aka Brett, and she does apologize for taking it too far with him in that particular conversation. Not the FaceTime conversation, but the conversation at the coffee shop. Then JT apologizes for his misstep, airing laundry that didn't need airing. But because it's Jarrett Thomas, can't just leave it be. He says that if it were reversed, and wants her to understand that if it was his wife calling Madison and he were married, then calling her, deposing her, that he thinks she would be a little uncomfortable. Madison's like, Do not tell me how I would behave in a situation. And we were like this close to resolving this absurd little tiff that JT could have just let go. But that delicate little flower, Jarrett Thomas, cannot do it. You know, JT, sometimes being right and proving a point just isn't worth it. You could have just moved on and you could have found a way to stay on this cast if you had decided you wanted to reverse your decision to leave. But he's dumb enough to then try and corner Madison into looking like she's the one trying to stir shit back up by saying, "Oh, come on, we just apologized." Well, you put her back in a position to defend herself because you wouldn't just shut up and take an apology, but okay. And when Andy asks if the two of them can move forward, Madison's just like, "He's delulu." Madison's over it. Okay, she's done. She's done. We now move on to Shep and his Shep 2.0 lifestyle and the Sienna of it all. Andy says he's proud of Shep for the way he's made the changes he has since BravoCon, and Austin and Craig both agree that he's been significantly better. Austin saying that Craig's truly been a joy the last few months, where he's just been more in control, I should say, over the last several months. Now, I did notice that after Craig shared his concern for Shep not continuing on the path of working on himself, that he would backslide. Lev, I think, is looking at Venita or Madison, but I'm pretty sure Venita, and just shaking her head.
Curious, Lebs, what's that about?
Oh, God. And now we're going to get into Shep and Sienna. You guys, I've cringed and just shrunken into myself as much as I possibly can with all of this. I feel like they're personally attacking us now, making us listen to this Shep and Sienna stuff all over again. When Andy asks Shep what it was that made him fall so hard and fast for Sienna, Craig leans over to Madison and whispers, "Her freckled lips." God, Shep, you're never going to live this down. It will be in the books of eternity for you. Oh, wait. And then one more thing Shep says is, "I don't know. Sienna's intoxicating." Oh, she was your new drug of choice, I guess. Austin thinks Shep missed what he had with Taylor because he was the best version of himself then when he was with Taylor. I think not, but okay. Taylor claims she's not affected by it, and Shep does actually apologize to her for his comments when he was comparing Taylor and Sienna with how accomplished Sienna is compared to where Taylor was at. Two totally different people, two totally different points in life. Wasn't fair, but glad he apologized for that. Shep is called out for saying early on in the show, many seasons ago, that he wouldn't be one of those guys in his 40s trying to hook up with girls in their 20s. Oh, don't you love how our words come back to bite us? It happens to the best of us, let's be real. Shep is now trying to sell that younger girls, it's a thing, are interested in older men. So it's some sort of new concept he's thought of and invented. Okay, Shep. Dear God, we're getting into the painful effing text he sent to Sienna, and I don't know how much more of this I can take. The cringe is actually getting painful at this point. Andy tries to ask Shep about this message and what were you actually thinking sending this to Sienna? And Shep, really all he can say is that he wasn't sleeping, couldn't think straight, but that he thinks he could be an excellent romance novelist. Oh God. I'm going to tell you what, I would not read a novel by Shep Rose if I wanted a sexy little novel, a little spice, because I am so sorry, but how can you write a romantic novel if you allegedly don't really know how to actually please a woman in that way? I'm sure instead of what we read in our spice romance novels, he would think that rubbing the inner thigh is where it really makes the magic happen. Austin says that he thinks Shep already knew going into the whole trip that it was about to be bad and that he would be made into a fool. Andy asks Shep about how he felt when Whitney told him he didn't think that Shep was rich enough for Sienna. Shep says he agreed and tells the whole "buy me that house" story while they were on the boat, and then goes into how after they were first talking, she went to a Forbes conference with the business idea of a women's health consulting business that's online, and that she was super excited when she came to Shep saying she got funding over it. Then Shep adds that it turns out this guy was a Denver Bronco, and he came into the conference with a big black You know, credit card, Amex. Oh my God. When I was watching this, I was doing that whole like big black what, Shep? What, Shep? Everyone's just like about to fall over at how long it took him to get to the point that he was saying a big black credit card. But y'all, I am not buying that Shep was not also thinking about that too. Come on, because credit cards are not large in size. Maybe, I don't know, the credit on them is, but no. Because here's the thing, too. I think Shep had the thought of a big black something else that Sienna might have liked instead of his. Just that little thought sprinted right into the thought he was already speaking out loud, and it very closely became a full blown train wreck, but he just took a very long pause instead. Shep then shares that he has a friend whose husband is a coach for the Denver Broncos, which, if you live in Denver or follow the Broncos, that's not going so well. If you know, you know. And that he got the full rundown on it all and is very, very pleased to report that apparently this football player who supposedly funded Sienna's business idea got relegated to the practice squad, which Andy notes how incredibly happy Shep is to report that. When Andy asks Shep if he's spoken to Sienna since the show aired, he says that he has, and it was basically just her telling him that he was sharing intimate details of their relationship and claims that she told him, look, I didn't sign up for this. Which everyone else is like, oh, what you did when you got on Raya. I don't think Sienna was trying to sign up for a reality show when she joined Raya. Just saying. Andy then pranks them all by saying, let's bring Sienna out. Shep says he's still looking for someone to settle down with, and it's got to be someone who doesn't need him. Okay. Molly and Shep and their whole flirtation situationship is brought up, and how the fans were shipping it, and it's confirmed that they banged. Not once, but twice. And when she's asked if Shep's track record gives her pause or concern about pursuing anything with him, Molly defends him, saying, we all do weird shit. And that it's more about him. Sorry. I love Molly. She's just funny. I mean, we all do weird shit. It's true. Anyway, she says that it's more about the fact that he's trying to better himself and defends that he really is making an attempt here. And she finds that more admirable. Now we're finally on to the JT and Venita of it all, where Andy asks how many people there on the sofa knew that JT and Venita were dating by show of hands. Now, Madison, Craig, Rod, and Sally raised their hands. And from what I understand, I would have to assume Leva knew as well, even though we didn't see her raising her hands. So just a few people who didn't know, it seems. Andy brings up that the internet thought the relationship between JT and Venita was faked for a storyline when this super teaser trailer dropped. And Venita says that anyone thinking that, they can fuck off. Okay, girl. JT is trying to still get in her good graces, saying how lovely Venita is, and it is too damn late. Jarrett. Little mister. That's so rude for me to call him that. I'm sorry. That was so. Oh, don't you love when you crack yourself up? Venita clarifies that JT's yummy side is Jarrett, who is a different, calm, more logical person from the one who shows up with his friends, and when he's with those friends is just acting up because he's in front of them. Oh, so he's like a toddler showing up and showing out. Oh, God. Just more of the little misters. Jokes coming to me. Caitlin, stop. Don't make fun of his height. He can't help it. Venita and JT did not bang. They only made out, apparently. And Shep is so very excited to hear about every little nitty gritty detail of that. But they were apparently just trying to take it all one day at a time to see if this was a relationship that was going to work romantically. Now, the secret girlfriend is brought up in how JT didn't tell Venita he was seeing someone until Venita invited him over to her home and made him branzino, which that scene was filmed after the Bahamas. Andy asks JT why he kept the girlfriend a secret, and all he can say is, oh, yeah, we know about. Well, we knew. It's like something doesn't. Because this is, You knew I had a girlfriend. That off camera, I had a girlfriend. What? String a thought together, young man. Little mister. Stop, Caitlin. Stop it. Venita makes JT clarify if he told her he had a girlfriend or that she knew the whole time, which he claims Venita knew the whole time. And she seems genuinely shocked that he would go ahead and make her out to be someone trying to steal boyfriends out here. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't care what proof JT posts. I do not believe Venita is the type that would allow herself intentionally to look as though she was trying to steal another woman's man and allow that to be filmed. I don't believe it. Something in me, my gut, the gut tells me no. Andy says JT claimed last year at the reunion that he was going to give Austin the fuckboy exorcism and that it seems to have gone into JT instead. JT's like, oh yeah, it worked. Look at him now. Look at Austin. He's happy because he's in a relationship. Oh my effing God. Then JT says in response to being told he seems to be the fuckboy now. Oh, I take it back. I'm going to keep calling you little mister because little mister says I didn't F her, so I don't think I am. Wow. Way to cheapen the Venita as a person. Not only that, but the relationship you had for a moment there and the longer friendship you had. Oh, JT, I am thoroughly disgusted. You just relegated Venita into a category that it doesn't count what you had or didn't have because you didn't have sex. Ew. Ew. Good. Now, the others point out, ew, themselves, and that JT hit his girlfriend for the first half of the season. And Andy asked JT why he had to later put up this big old official post announcing his relationship with the other girl. And Sally's saying, look, it's probably because this girl made him do that due to seeing comments from the girlfriend that she was leaving on everything about JT in the 2 weeks prior to this post. And at first I'm like, this again makes no sense because JT claims that he and this girlfriend were not together at that time when she was leaving comments on things and that he was actually seeing Venita. And this is at the time they were done filming. What the actual fact, JT? Thank you so much, Leva. Thank you for asking for a timeline breakdown, which Venita gives, but I still had to look up some dates for y'all. Because again, whenever I'm confused by something, I assume my besties must be on the same dum-dum train that I am, or that we are, in fact, not the problem. So I try and find answers, okay? So here's Venita's breakdown of it all. It sounds like they most likely wrapped up filming around July, okay? Maybe August. Venita had been in Europe and she returns from Europe in September. JT tells Venita that he and this girl are not together. Okay. So then Venita and JT are dating, going out every day, trying to figure things out. And then the super teaser drops, which happens to have been October 28th, the exact day that at the beginning of the reunion, Venita says was the last time she and JT spoke. This is when Venita says the girlfriend is in my effing DMs calling me a goddamn rat. So Venita asked JT to do something about it, and that his reply was that he can't do anything about that. And that's when she told him, look, I'm going to need a second. Okay. I need a minute. I need to pump the brakes. We got to slow this roll because I don't know what's going on with you and I don't like seeing it. JT says that after that, she then ghosted him for a week and it hurt his feelings. Effing what, JT? She told you she needed space for a minute. Okay. That she took a week and that's ghosting you. You really, it's like if you were a flower, you'd be a peony because they are so delicate. They just crumple in on themselves. She tells JT that he needed to ask her to talk and say something like, look, I get it. You need some time. You need some space, but we need to talk this out. That's when JT claims that he did text Venita that, and she says he absolutely did not. And that's when she's like, okay, you want me to go grab my phone? I'll go grab my phone. Cause he's like, yeah, sure. So she gets up to go grab her cute little pink phone. And she says she's taking the cute way out, her cute exit, because she goes through the fake door. Then, while she's out getting her phone, it's confirmed that the girl JT is currently dating at time of filming the reunion is the same one he was dating during filming, who sent Venita those nasty little DMs. Venita comes just shaking back in. And that's when Molly starts quoting, and that's with her phone, I should say. Molly starts quoting Heather Gay. Receipts, proof, timeline, effing everything, screenshots. Venita sits down and Andy just looks over at JT and tells him that he thinks things are about to get worse. Yes, they are. JT, I just find it disgusting. I don't like this is where, y'all, it makes me think JT actually did say something along the lines of what his barber said he said. Well, I didn't F her, so I'm not an F boy. Something in that. And I also feel as though, again, JT, I'm not accusing him of being racist. I would not accuse someone of that without something very, very solid. But I do think, and it could be from living in the South, what have you. But it's 2025, buddy. Educate yourself and work on it. I think there are a lot of underlying biases happening there. And he's not the only one. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, the red flags are flying, my friends. So that's the conclusion of the Southern Charm reunion part 1. Oh yeah, I said I was going to talk about seeing Craig at the home show. So he did mention, I will say, that they are working on putting together little crafting kits to sell with Sewing Down South in stores, and that he is also looking at making maybe, I don't know, a cookbook, something like that, with recipes to create new family holiday traditions. Although, God bless him, Craig couldn't name a favorite recipe off the top of his head, but that's okay. He didn't say, now that I'm thinking about it, when asked if he was dating anyone, he was very uncomfortable by being put on the spot. Because, I mean, if y'all had seen, it started out with like 12 people sitting there. And in the course of about 30 minutes, there were like well over 100 people there. And, there were, like I had said previously, there were some women that were a little toasty at 3 p.m. on a Saturday at a home show at the National Western Complex. But yeah, we waited for the meet and greet. And on top of that, there were people there with their kids. And so they were like, look, we're going to let the families go through first. And one of these women who was very clearly intoxicated is like, why? Boo. Ma'am, he is not going, trust me, no, he was not going to take you home with him. Give me a break. You will still get to take your picture with Craig Conover. What is wrong with you? God. He gave a lot of insight into how he had to get through a lot of the hurdles of developing the business, and how it was whenever he first was selling the pillows online, and he would just be excited if they sold like 5 in a week. And that whenever he had started a whole campaign of it being about the proceeds going to the hurricane that hit the Bahamas after he'd been living there, he said suddenly they raised like $70,000, and then they were like, oh shit, there are no, like, that we need a pillow factory, because they were essentially doing what sounded like drop shipping, and how they had to overcome certain things, like, well, they were only able to sell the pillowcases, and people were getting annoyed that it wasn't like the full pillow, which typically, y'all, if you order a pillow online, unless it's like something that's like the pillow is embroidered, it's not, any type of case, you have to buy the case and then buy the filling. That's the way it typically is now. Trust me, it annoyed the living shit out of me when I was trying to get our apartment or townhome, whatever you want to call it, decorated. It's not an apartment, but whatever. And what's funny is at the same time, Austin and Shep were in Crested Butte. So everybody was here in Colorado. And now when I took a break, because there was some noise around me, I did see that a lot of people are going ahead and calling out who they believe Craig is now dating. I didn't want to be trying to break the news without enough confirmation, but people have claimed that she's very pretty. She's a little influencer herself, a little fashion girly. Natalie, I hope I'm not butchering her last name. Buffett is what it looked like. People are claiming that allegedly she was in the audience at Watch What Happens Live. She is beautiful, and I think if that's the case, they would make a stunning couple. Don't know. That's allegedly. I'm not trying to put anyone on blast, but figure if she was at the Watch What Happens Live taping, it's pretty safe to say. But who knows? Okay, just covering my ass at this point. Okay, besties. Thank you again for being here with me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please, if you're listening on audio, leave a little 5-star review and follow me on Instagram, subscribe to YouTube. And if TikTok's still around, go ahead and follow me on TikTok. It's at Besties by Caitlin across all the boards. And Caitlin is spelled Caitlin. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit the like button, all of those things. Check out the Pop Culture Besties Etsy merch shop. It's all designed by yours truly, my friends. And I hope y'all enjoy your weekend. I will see you next week on Wednesday for The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, darling. Reunion Part 1. Hopefully it's more exciting than that finale was. All right. Thanks again for joining. Bye.